Hi everyone, and welcome to the third in the series of our looking at the arts and the infertility and the arts. We've been speaking to some amazing people so far, and I'm really pleased to be joined today by a good friend and an amazing man in general, Gareth. Gareth and I worked together a few years ago on still one of my favourite plays ever, and he's going to be talking to us a little bit about that play and where it came from. But first of all, hi, how are you?
I'm all right. Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you?
It's looking sunny down there. It's really nice.
Yeah. If I put my head out of that window there, I can just about see the sea. But
Waves of jealousness. That's not good. Oh, that's fantastic. So you look well, and everyone's keeping well by the sounds of it, I hope.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing okay, thanks. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So we've been looking at, we spoke to Jessica Hepburn a few weeks ago, and we spoke to Jack Thorne. And we've been looking at these amazing people involved within the arts and how that's impacted fertility and how their journeys impacted their writing or their creativity. And I'd love to hear just a little bit about your journey and your experience of fertility issues.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, how far do you want to go back? We got married and then thought we would have a family, I suppose, as everyone else did. And I mean,
Yeah.
these are how these stories start, right? And then it was kind of obvious that it wasn't going to be straightforward for us. So yeah, we kind of went into it really sort of half knowing what the process was, as everyone does, and then not really knowing the kind of like intricate details of how overwhelming it can be. And I was just sort of really naive in that I think I just thought it was going to go away. I was like, right, we'll do a round of IVF and that'll be 6 weeks. We don't need to tell anyone. We don't need to kind of like talk about it at all because like we don't get involved in other people's sort of baby making exploits. So why do people need to get involved in ours? So great, don't tell anyone. We'll be all right. We'll just keep it to ourselves, and then we'll get a baby at the end of it. And yeah, I mean, like that didn't happen. So we weren't successful after round one. We had kind of 6 embryos at the beginning of the week, and then after the week we had 2, and they put those back, and neither of them made it. So then we were in the that was our kind of NHS round, and then we were in the kind of private sector and kind of working out like which one and all that sort of business. And it just became this sort of massive thing in our lives. But then obviously life doesn't stop; we carry on, and we're dealing with work and dealing with family and dealing with all the other things that were going on at the time. So it just became part of our life for 4 years. We did another 3 rounds, and then on the 4th round we put 2 embryos back and froze 3. They were frozen, so we thawed 2 out and put 2 in, and they both implanted, and we now have twin girls. 5 years old now, nearly 6.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was 4 rounds in total?
Yeah, so yeah, we say 4 rounds, but in fact it was 3.5. We did 3 full rounds and one got stopped halfway through. So yeah, we say 4 because we feel like we went through that as a round. It had everything apart from the embryo transfer at the end. So yeah, it felt like a round, but yeah, we did 4. That's what we say.
And at what point did you think actually you started to need to talk to people a little bit more about this, or to be a bit more vocal? Because it sounds like you made quite a strong decision at the beginning. No, this is between us two, as many couples do.
I did. I mean, you've met Gabby; she'll talk to anyone about anything. But I was just like there needs to be some sort of privacy, and also like I said, I just thought it wasn't gonna be a big issue. It was like something we will do. We'll get treatment for and we'll be fine. So when did it feel like? I don't know. It sort of surprised me, and you were part of that. You were part of that process, Anya, when Gabby sort of knew that we needed to talk to somebody, or like we weren't dealing with it just between us, it was getting quite intense, and we needed just to kind of like, somewhere where we could kind of release that pressure. So we looked for a support group, and I was very, very kind of like reluctant. I remember standing on the steps of the London Women's Clinic going like, look, Gabby, if I don't speak during this, it's not because I'm being miserable, it's not because I'm hating it, it's just like, I don't know if this is my world really.
Yeah, this is not my idea of a date night.
No. But like, I think we went, and I think I was probably one of the first people to speak, and I didn't realise then how much I needed to. And then, you know, like, I didn't stop speaking, and I wrote a play about it, and we kind of created Fertility Fest, and that's all been speaking about it. And I think it's just become our life. It's become our life. Yeah. So going from being kind of really private about it to being like ridiculously public about it, it just felt like a natural thing to do. Yeah.
Very brave, natural thing to do. I mean, it's heart on sleeve time, isn't it? It must be writing a play and just bringing in some of your own experiences of it. Did it feel quite a leap to think, I'm going to start writing, or was it more natural?
I was kind of, I separated those things, like my private, I kind of do that anyway. I sort of really try hard to separate my private life and my work life. And I was looking for, I'd kind of just got a play on, it was on at the Royal Exchange in Manchester, and my agent at the time was saying, look, we need another one to kind of like roll on the back of this one, so if you've got any ideas. And we were going through IVF at the time, and you know, as a writer, you're looking for really dramatic, tense scenarios to start to kind of think about and write. And I was living through the most dramatic and tense scenario I'd known. So I was like, I'll try writing it. I'll try and see what that feels like to kind of write it. And I didn't enter into it, and I didn't want it to be a cathartic experience. I didn't want writing to be therapy. Like, that's my job, and kind of my life was my life. But I thought I could write that play, and I kind of wrote about. I remember writing about 60 pages of it, and then just kind of like Command All and deleted it. Because it felt like us. It felt like me and Gabby, and I didn't really want it to be that. And then I did it again. I did about another 40 pages, and I just deleted the lot. And then I made this kind of rule up that I could use no words that we'd said to each other during our process and during our life. And I'd break that rule once in the play. But once I'd sort of said that to myself and tried to create two people that definitely weren't us, that then became an easier play to write, and that felt like that was me writing about this rather than me putting myself into this. It was only when it was on, and I remember sitting there watching it, just going, "It's definitely us." What am I talking about? It's definitely us.
I've never been. Yeah, I've never been in. Said this to someone else the other day. I've never been in an audience.
Oh, Anya, you've frozen. You've frozen.
That has. Oh no! Can you see me now?
Oh yeah, you're back.
Oh, sorry, I'm back.
Right, you froze on. I've never been in an audience, and then it froze.
I could have said anything. I could have said something really awful.
Maybe it's better.
No, I was saying something. No, the audience reaction in the Quiet House was phenomenal, and I can't even imagine I was involved with it, but not in vaguely the same way as you in terms of how it must feel to watch that. So I can't imagine. It must have been very
weird, because I mean, I thought that I dealt with it. I thought we'd kind of had kids. We'd done 4 rounds of IVF and we'd got our kids, right? And then I thought, okay, great, we've got what we wanted. And you don't realize, and it was a bit of a shock to me, and it was while we were watching the play that I had that shock, and I suppose that shock was going to come at some point. But I remember just sitting there going, I've not dealt with this at all. I've not dealt with the ones that didn't make it. I've not dealt with that loss, because when that happens, you kind of, what we did, I mean, this is just the people we are. We were like, right, that didn't work, and we'd have a day or a week of grieving, and then it'd be like, right, well, we've got to keep going, we've got to get back onto that journey. And it was quite quick for us that we would go, right, what's the next stage? How do we move on? Like, where do we go now? What options have we got? And it was only kind of like, and then when we got the girls, it was when they were born, it was like, right, well, we're dealing with kind of babies now, and you don't really think about all of that process. So it was like sitting there watching this play was, and seeing sort of the similarities to our life, because I'd kind of appropriated a lot of the things that we'd done, although it wasn't words that we said to each other, it was things that we did. And yeah, I was just remember sitting there kind of going, yeah, I've not dealt with any of that. I've not. And so then it became a process of dealing with, with the loss really of the ones that didn't make it really. Yeah.
And I think that was a very common experience within the audience. You could see it and feel it, and people were very openly sobbing and holding each other's hands, and there was a feeling that people needed to be there, which was really quite amazing, quite special. It wasn't an easy watch, but it felt a really, really necessary one, and I wanted to bring the whole world in.
It's amazing, and I think that's what theatre, that's the special thing about theatre, is that it kind of, it allows you to feel like you're not on your own for a bit. Like it wasn't real, and there was safety in that. Like, people knew that it's not real what's going on stage, and that felt safe. But it was real enough that people could feel it, and we all felt it when people started to feel it openly in the space and the audience. And like you said, it was, people couldn't deal with it, I suppose, and sometimes got up and left, and that's absolutely fine. That wasn't a problem at all. People just kind of held each other, and people looked after each other. And I mean, I suppose my real ambitions for the Quiet House were that it would like respectfully represent people who have been through fertility treatment, and it would entertain and educate those people that have no idea about what it is. And you don't need to know about what fertility treatment is in order to enjoy it or watch it. And also, which was I don't know whether I thought about this beforehand, but what it sort of did is that it kind of opened a door and enlightened people within the fertility industry about what the patient experience is. And that was unbelievable, to have nurses to come up to me afterwards and say, I will be better at my job because of watching this play. And social workers who work within adoption say that they will pause before they walk into someone's house in the future, because they will consider what journey they've been through to go before they get to this point. So that was really overwhelming. So it was I mean, the theatre does that. Theatre makes you stop. Yes. You have to watch. I mean, that's the thing about theatre. You can't pause it. You can't just turn it off. You have to watch. Get up and walk out. So it sort of made people do that. But I suppose it was really alarming in places because of how real we went, but also really comforting in that you're not on your own. I suppose it's a similar, but in no way as important as the self-help group, as the support group. But it's similar in that feeling of it being collective, and we are together in this, and you laugh, like we laughed in the support group, and there's humour in the play, and put a purpose for it. There's humour in the journey. Like, we laughed a lot during our cycles, out of like desperation at times, but it was there. So there's that collective laughing and crying that you always want when you write a play. But that was kind of it was a different level, I think, with the Quiet House.
Well, you definitely nailed it. And on that note, I would love for you to read a little bit for us this afternoon, and maybe tell us a little bit about the part of the play that it is. Obviously I'll know, but for people watching, it'd be great to hear.
Well, I just thought I'd read like just 2 pages of a scene, which is the whole scene basically, and it's the first time they inject, and I think that covers a lot of what I've just said. It's that sense of fear and feeling overwhelmed, but also intimacy and sense of togetherness, and a little bit of humor, and like either side of that, well, they are either side of a spectrum, but bridging that spectrum is like hope, I suppose. And they're like the overriding things that I remember going through it. So I tried to kind of include that in most scenes, and I think this I hope this scene did it, but I'll let you be the judge. Scene 6. Jess and Dylan sit at their kitchen table. In front of them are 2 vials of the stimulant merional, 3 vials of the stimulant fostemon. Each has a water vial for mixing and needles next to them. There is also a preloaded syringe of the synthetic hormone buserelin. They stare at the drugs as the size of what they are about to do hits them. Dylan, you okay? Jess, I think so. There's just a lot of it. Dylan, and we do this every night, right? Jess, yeah. Dylan, for 6 weeks. Jess, about that, yeah, until the trigger shot. Dylan, where's that? Jess, in the fridge with all the rest of it. There's no room for the milk. I had to throw it away. Dylan, right. Shall we do it then? Jess, I need music. If this is how we are making a baby, I need music. Jess crosses to the stereo and puts music on. Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye plays. She does a flirty, sexy dance. It's light and fun. They smile. Dylan, my hands are shaking. Dylan fixes a large drawing needle onto the end of a syringe. Right. So now we need to fill this with water, right? Jess? Yeah. He draws water from 1 water vial into the syringe. Dylan, and we mix it with this. He plunges the water from the syringe into 1 vial of powdered merional. This turns the powder into a fluid. Dylan, then we draw it up and plunge it into this one. He draws up the mixture and plunges it into the 2nd vial of merional powder. Dylan, then we draw this up, and that's the first one, right? Jess, air bubbles. Dylan, air bubbles. Dylan takes off the large drawing needle and replaces it with a small one. He taps to get rid of the air bubbles and passes it to Jess. She takes it, checks for air bubbles herself, and Dylan, ready? She inserts the needle into her stomach. Once it's in, Dylan moves to her side and plunges the fluid. She removes the needle and they put it in a sharps box. They look at each other. They kiss. Jess, this is how our baby is made. Dylan, it is. He repeats the process for the fostemon. They don't speak to each other again as the lights fade. The music continues to play.
Oh, it is incredible. I've worked in this sector, you know this, for 13, 14 years, but there's something about having that mirror held up to you.
Yeah.
And I think the Quiet House just does it so incredibly. I remember you being really definite about having to have real, well, they weren't real needles, but the reality of the big sharps box and the needles.
Yeah.
And there was so much that was a mirror, wasn't there, during this time?
Well, I suppose it was about thinking about the moments that like hit us, really, like getting them delivered to your house and then kind of going, right, all right, I'm gonna like because we did it all together. So like as they do in the play, we were like, right, well, we would be together if we were making a baby naturally, so let's do it together. So I would like inject, I would make it all up, I'd mix it all up like Dylan does, and then I'd kind of like hand it to Gabby and she'd inject and I'd plunge it. So we were doing it all together, so it felt like there was some sort of intimacy and togetherness to it. But like I remember sitting there going, I'm going to inject my wife. Like, what is that? Like, I have no qualifications to do that.
No.
It's like, and how fearful we were at the beginning, and then the play does it as well. Like how quickly that becomes normal. Like how it's like, shall we have dinner or shall we inject? And it just becomes something that you do. So it was, I suppose it's about isolating that moment of getting all these drugs delivered and feeling the kind of responsibility and the pressure to make sure they're going the right place and they're stored right and then mixing it right and then injecting it and then, the next day and you're in the journey then. So I suppose, getting them delivered and doing the first one they were big moments. Yeah, they were really big moments. And we were kind of like adamant in the play that we would, that we would show it. We weren't going to just kind of cut. We weren't going to just kind of black out. And I suppose you could feel that as well. You could feel like, where are we going to end this? Are we going to see them inject? Is this going in? And it was like, it was pretty affecting when people kind of felt that and when we saw that. So yeah, syringes do that though, needles do that to people.
But what was great was when people, you sort of alluded to it at the beginning, that you have this concept with fertility treatment, that it's a sort of, you just go in, you do fertility treatment, you come out. There's this sort of simplistic way that it's talked about. Oh, it's all right, you can do IVF. But actually the intricacies of it and the different stages of it are just not known by the mass public. And that's where I thought The Quiet House, just taking a really normal couple and showing them having to inject, you know, or dealing with a loss, or dealing with a, you know, all of the highs and lows throughout the play. You know, it was incredible. Really, it was amazing for it to be that raw.
It was really, really important as well. And there's lots of kind of, I won't spoil it for anybody about how it ends, but it was there was lots of kind of conversation and at times dispute about how we finish this play. And it was important that they go through a cycle where it doesn't work, and it was important for me that that those people, I don't just write a play and say if you do IVF it will work. Like this isn't a play about IVF really. It's a love story. Like it's a love story about two people who are in a situation. And yes, it's about IVF, but it's about more than that. It's about hope, and it's about kind of togetherness, and it's about like breaking up and getting back together again, and it's about pressure, and we know about those things if you've not been through a fertility cycle. So they exist elsewhere in our lives, so we can understand it and we can kind of feel it. But it was important that it kind of did what it needed to do for those people that it works for and those people that it never works for. And I'm not going to land on one side or the other, because some people it doesn't work for, and I'm not going to sit there and say if you do it long enough it will work. Yes, it did for us, but like I'm not going to say that by writing a play that like everything works out in the end. So it was important that I ended it where I did. And it is important that it covered the ground that it does, in order for it to feel like it's not alienating anybody, it's kind of including everybody. That was the kind of ambition for it, that it made sure that it was respectful and inclusive.
And I think that theme, that drive was really picked up within Fertility Fest in general, wasn't it? So this amazing festival that encompasses IVF children and success and, you know, things working out, but also moving on to adoption and everything else. And, you know, I think the themes were so strong right from the start of this is a much bigger issue about whether an IVF cycle works.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Family.
Well, I mean, I think that's what they learned. That's what we all learned, and that's what Gabby and Jessica then went on to kind of really highlight and kind of like crack open, is that it's not just about IVF. Like it's not just about fertility treatment. It's about, you know, people, it's single people doing fertility treatment. It's not about it's about same-sex couples. It's about the choice that we have of making children, and the ethics and the size of the decisions and the size of the kind of implications of all of that. So I think that's what they started to uncover by the first Fertility Fest, and then second and third it was just like this machine. It's like how big can it go? I
think in space we're going to go space. Is the next one. We're just going. So what's next for you? What's your projects at the moment?
Well, I should be. We should be finishing a play that I'd written this weekend, I think. We were 2 weeks away from rehearsal starting for my new play, Shandyland, which is about the death of a pub, about the death of pub culture or pubs within a working class community. Wow. So that was due to start rehearsals at Northern Stage and then go to Liverpool and Oldham and York Theatre Royal, but that got stopped. So we're still hopeful that that's going to move. And I'm under commission at the Old Vic to write a new play for them at the minute, which covers similar territory to The Quiet House. So it's got a fertility kind of component to it. So I've not let that go yet. Like I mean, we did the film of The Quiet House, did the kind of the short film, which the Wellcome Trust were very kind of kindly supported us with, and which was really lovely to do, to kind of feel like that was a real kind of a lasting kind of thing that you can always have, you know, because plays come and go and they start and they end, whereas to do the film feels like that's always going to be there. But yeah, then I've did the Quiet House and that, and now I'm doing this one for the Old Vic, which is it's a story I've always wanted to write. It's about fertility. I can't kind of talk about it too much, but it's it's a story I've always wanted to write, and so yeah, hopefully that'll move forward. But that's like very early stages for that.
Wonderful. Well, we wish you all the best for that, and I know it's such a difficult time for the arts at the moment. It's I have to leave my political hat at the door a little bit at the moment. But when I spoke to Jack Thorne a few weeks ago, he did not keep his political hat at the door, and he's really frustrated at the moment. And yeah, it's a difficult time for all of you, I know.
Yeah, it is. It's really devastating to feel like it's not. It's not seen as important. I think that's the big thing that I'm worried about, is that and I think so many, I've got to be careful because so many sectors feel like that, so many industries feel like that, but this is the one I'm in and this is one I love, and I don't feel like it's seen as important enough to support, and that's absolutely devastating. So I but then I've got to feel like it's going to last, like it lasts, man. Like people want to see live things. There's something human in us that takes back to a primitive place where we, like, as hunter-gatherers, we sat around and talked and told stories. There's something in us that needs it. So for me, that it won't go away, no matter how much people fail to support it. It will still be there in some form and in some way, and I'll continue to be part of that because it's, I don't know, it's in me, man. It's just in me, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, from the reaction, even just thinking of the Quiet House, the reaction in an audience where there's a good play on is just to know that you're not on your own with this. You know, there's shared experiences, and what's more important than that? That's so huge.
Yeah, and it's escapism. It takes you away from what's going on as well. You know, so even, like, it doesn't have to be something like weighty and kind of and kind of like subject heavy like the Quiet House. It can be something as frivolous and as kind of joyous as, you know, as a panto or as musicals or something. Like it can to take you away, to kind of make you forget. Like we're all gonna need that. We're all gonna need that. So like it'll be there.
Well, keep us posted at Fertility Network, and, you know, best of luck with everything you're doing. I can't wait to see next steps, and I have every faith there will be there. All right, lovely catching up with you, Gareth. You take care and love to everyone. Bye.
Bye.